Back Road Ministry, the world permit. Mr. Moxie coming at you live and direct from the Kia Optima Studios. Oh, man. You know, first of all, opinionated conversation. That's what this is, opinionated conversation. I always started off that way. This is my opinions. You can do your own research. In the comment section, any facts that you find, anything I misquote, please check me on it. I always ask to be checked because that's what a opinionated conversation should be about. It's going to be research, it's going to be some opinion, but, you know, throw your facts. So I did a nice little piece on Nas and just my dissatisfaction with a lot of things that's going on hip-hop. I have a lot of dissatisfaction. Check out Reverb Nation. I had shouted out my site, but go on Reverb Nation and listen to a lot of those young hip-hop artists. Just go through the list. You got a lot of good hip-hop artists on my page. You got some of my favorites on the Back Row Ministry /Reverb Nation page. Some good artists out of New York. They just not getting the chance, man. A lot of these cats are not getting the opportunity to really shine and being held back by, you know, pretty much a population of really bad rappers. I mean, guys who couldn't rap a bologna sandwich with wax paper. I mean, they're that bad, but this is the way the industry wants it. The power and control in the elite in the music industry, keeping, you know, young kids young, dumb, and full of cum with their pants falling down, as I call it. You got Tekashi 619 4522 fucking up hip-hop. You got a whole gang of folks jumping on his bandwagon, and Tekashi's been picked by the music mogul elites to fuck up hip-hop even further. That's the only reason that kid's there. Probably went to some goddamn preparatory school. So there's just a lot of bullshit going on in hip-hop right now. So, big heated debate I had with my mother-in-law yesterday, and I don't like having heated debates with my mother-in-law because we're both are stubborn when it comes to our opinions. But well, we were talking about the reopening of the Emmitt Till case 63 years after the death of Emmitt Till in the year 1955 in Mississippi. So the DOG, which is ran by Jeff Sessions, now I repeat, DOG ran by Jeff Sessions, you know, he loves everybody, Mr. Alabama himself, decided to reopen this case yesterday. It's a day with numerology of 1930. I've showed you guys how to go on the gematria calculator, play with some numbers, play with Emmitt Till's name, kind of see how his name and the numbers in his name match up with the numerologies and so forth, how the gematria matches up with numerology for yesterday. Because always a method behind their madness. So with a lot of older black people, one thing that the elite likes to do is to play on, older black people and white people, is to play on the past and the feelings, the hurt and the hatred. And a lot of times they've dictated the way that older people vote just by feeding the hate. I call it feeding the hate, a lot of hate feeding. So 63 years after this case that pretty much, you know, ripped the country apart in a way where we really saw how low down some people could be, how people could hurt a child like that, just some of the mind states that were out there at that time. 63 years after that, Jeff Sessions decided, well, we're going to reopen the case. And there was a book written where I guess the author found the young lady who was the person that Emmitt had whistled at. Remember, Emmitt was a kid from Chicago, came down from Mississippi to Mississippi to visit relatives during the summer, like most kids from Chicago. I'm from Chicago. That's what we did. We went down and visited our relatives in Mississippi. So my relatives were from the Delta, so I would go to the Delta every summer, and pretty much that's where I grew up. You know what I'm saying? I hung out. Me and my boy, I had a best friend out there in Mississippi, and that's pretty much how a lot of us grew up. So that was a common thing. So Emmitt went down to Mississippi 1955, supposedly whistled at this Caucasian lady. She went back and told her people, and you know, back then you couldn't do that. You know, you can't be whistling at no Caucasian lady. And you know, they came to the house late at night and took Emmitt from the house, and nobody was there. That's the other piece of this story. Now, Remember now, we got live in Memorex still with these stories in the past. Nobody just so happened to be there. Now, I grew up in Mississippi. There's always somebody watching. There's always somebody watching, especially in those areas where it's predominantly African American. Seldom are you just living out in the woods somewhere. But, you know, I don't know what the kind of the layout was then. But Emmitt is taken from the home. His cousin sees it, and now his cousin, I guess, wants to testify, which he could have did this 20 or 30 years ago, about what happened. And he took him from the home, and he was beaten by a group of angry Caucasian men. But that was the layout back then. A lot of hatred, a lot of ignorance in Mississippi. And the layout of Mississippi is changing, slowly changing, but you still got a lot of those same attitudes out there, a lot of prejudice out there, a lot of looking down on African Americans by Caucasians who still feel that we should be in slavery. I'm just calling it what it is. But a lot of the stuff in the South has changed because majority of the time, you know, a lot of people now are starting to live together. Caucasian African Americans now are living in the same community, you know, part of the same political layout in some places. Then you still got towns in the South where you just can't go. I mean, if you're African American, just can't go. I mean, it's still some of the same vibe and some of the same stuff going on. You might just come up messing. That's just how the South has been. But it's always been an honest place with its racism. Not like the North and the East where it's kind of under the table. I call that under the table racism sometimes. Under the table prejudice. Well, I'm not going to show it right then, but you know what's going on. So they want to reopen this case, and my point to all this is that older African Americans, they get so caught up in their emotions that they don't see the underlying picture. They're not really reading into the underlying reason for things. And what I wanted to point out to her was, why would you open up a wound like this at this time? We had 2 or 3 police shootings of African American men in the past couple of weeks, couple of months. So we already got a wound. But I guess that wound, with all the things that is going on in the truth community and social media, isn't effective enough. So they say, hey, let's go and affect the populace of African Americans. We know we can get at. We can't get at the young. We can definitely get at the old. And they do this by opening up old wounds. And the oldest wound they could find was the Emmitt Till case, because, like, you know, she said she grew up in that time where she saw those pictures on TV. She saw a lot of the stuff that was going on in civil rights on TV. They were seeing this stuff at young ages. So there's a lot of old wounds, a lot of hatred. And so this is the attack of the elite. Well, let me open up this old wound. Let me reignite that hatred. Let me show them why they need to hate each other, because the elite need us to hate. And that's what I pointed out to her yesterday. They need us to hate each other. They need white and black against each other, because the more we're fighting with each other, the less we're paying attention to the things that they're doing. Right now, the economy is under attack. We're headed to this one world economy. Trump is purposely being instructed to do things so-called to destroy the economy with the other players in the world. They have to. We're going towards a one world economy. So the elite has ways of kind of blocking the vision of certain people with stupidity. So let me get them caught up in hate while I fuck something up over here. They'll be so busy hating each other, they won't have time to pay attention to what we're really trying to do. And once we wake up and see that that's what's going on, then we can begin to defeat the elite together. We can begin to plot against the elite and not let them dictate how the plot is going. And that's what we've been doing for a long period of time. We've been allowing the elite to dictate the plot because we don't want to come out of certain things. And like I pointed to her, we don't want to come out of the hate. We don't want to come out of the hate. And I love her, but it's a lot of hate there. And that hate overshadows. She feels that I don't understand what was going on. I do understand what was going on. Like I told my daughter, that at that time in the world, there was a lot of hate. There was a lot of ignorance. There was a lot of things used to keep us down. And even in that time, that was just the elite. The elite went in and destroyed the South. Southerners still don't understand that it was one of their own people who helped them lose the war. And if you go to Washington, D.C., this is the only Confederate statue that's standing and still standing. Well, nobody said anything about it. Nobody said anything about it. And it's the author of Morals and Dogma. Read it, find out who the author is. Go to Washington, D.C., you will see his statue. And I bet, go through the news feeds, nobody has said anything about taking his statue down. He's the only Confederate buried in Washington, D.C. And he's buried there for a reason. And ain't no Southerner yet asked, well, why they ain't trying to take down his statue? Why ain't they trying to remove his statue? Because he's one of the secret society's biggest players. That's why. He is their standard for the secret society. And he's the man who sold out the South. That's why his statue still stands, Mr. Albert Pike. Check it, read it, research it. I bet you'll see he's the only person. They ain't never tried to say anything about removing his statue and never will. They never will. But we need to come out of the hate. And that's what me and her debate was about. Just old hate. Old hate. And coming out of that so you can pay attention to what the elite is doing. The elite need us to hate. The elite need us to be at each other. They're going to use anything they can from old stories and reopening up old wounds to do it. Only love can beat hate. And we got to be on the same page. We come here, we debate as one. We debate as one. Caucasians, African American, Hispanic, Asiatic brothers, we debate as one. And we point out things as one that everybody needs to be paying attention to so we can be one step ahead of our game. So it's one thing for us to talk here. Now we're going to also start throwing some solutions. So anybody got some solutions for the one world economy system if it comes? Throw them out there. Anybody got any healthcare solutions? Throw them out there. Let's start working together. Let's start working to beat the elite. This is the Moxley Back Road Ministry. Peace.